Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing? Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the retro games that I play. I want to do the Games Gladiator series here at Whiskey Barrel Studios. I have a RetroPie system, and that is basically a little Raspberry Pi device that it's a tiny little computer that comes with a board and an SD card and a little fan and even a couple of controllers. And you can basically load up what are called ROMs on there and play all the arcade games and all the Sega games and Nintendo games that you remember from your childhood. Of course, legally you have to own all these games, and of course I do own all these games, and so I have loaded them all up on my RetroPie and I play them here in the Games Gladiator. So I've actually got two different setups. I have one on my home PC that's just using a program called Emulation Station, and one downstairs on the actual RetroPie device, which is a tiny little, the little Linux computer, which is about as big as a matchbox, a bit bigger than that really. And when I'm doing the Games Gladiator videos, I run it on the computer, and so I can record the screen. But when I'm playing for myself or have friends over or something like that who want to get into some retro game action, I actually have a pretty cool setup that I'd like to show you. And as part of that, I'll do a tiny little tour of my house. Not even a tour, but we're going to rush downstairs. I'm also going to show you a couple of the toys on my shelf that I have bought over the years. Each time I release a game, like a Swords and Sandals game, I try to reward myself by buying a classic figure from my youth, maybe a He-Man figure or a Transformer or some Star Wars Lego, or whatever it is, just sort of as a milestone, just to feel like I've achieved something. So whenever I look at these, I go, yeah, that was when I made Sword and Sandals 2 or Sword and Sandals Medieval or whatever. And it's a very small incentive, but it keeps me kind of motivated to finish the next game to get another cool figure for the shelf. My wife laughs at me, and people laugh at me when they come over and think that I'm a kid. But you should never let go of your childhood. I think it's important. Have your adult responsibilities, but don't feel like you should be ashamed for having cool little figures and stuff on your desk. Fun is very important. So in a moment, we're going to switch over to the handheld camera, my Android phone, and I'll take you downstairs to check out the RetroPie. All right, let's switch over now. All right, so we've switched to the handheld camera now on my mobile phone. We can see my Astro Boy and Pluto figures from my favorite Astro Boy episode, The Greatest Robot in the World. This is, my setup at my desk where I do the magic. That, of course, is the Millennium Falcon. You can see inside there, because I put some lights in, there's the gang. There's some more figures back behind here. Pretty cool. You can see in there. You can also see Optimus Prime, He-Man and Skeletor, and Skywarp the Transformer, who are some of the things. There's some of my books, Richard Garriott, some Unity books and that kind of thing. And of course, my Gladiator helmet, which I wear for the Games Gladiator series. Now we're leaving the room. It's my keyboard, and we will head downstairs, because this is what I wanted to show you. Let's hope we don't trip. When I want to play these retro games, I've actually got the setup here. So we have, in fact, a projector. Now, when we bought this house, this projector came with it. So whoever owned the house before was really into sort of 90s technology, and back then projectors were really big. So while it's loading up, there's my Castlevania picture. This is kind of cool, so check this out. Press this button. It's like a really crap version of MTV Cribs. But there's a projector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the curtains, because the light isn't so good in the daytime for this. But now you can see we have the RetroPie set up on the projector. And that was pretty easy, because all I did was just ran a HDMI cable from the little device down here. It's too dark to see very well there, but you can now play the RetroPie on big screen. So I'm going to sit down here and fire up a game. We've got the Super Nintendo thing happening now. So if we went to Super Mario Brothers, hang on, back. It's hard to do that with one hand. So we go that button. I'm of course using the 8-bit Do controller, which I'm always going on about. It's really good for these kind of things. Super Mario. One problem, I haven't set up sound quite yet, so that'll be coming. But in a previous video, we were playing this game on my PC, so I could actually record it properly. But, you know, it's pretty fun to play it on a big projector like this. I mean, you can kind of see the scale of it with the stairs over there. You know, and that's Mario playing. So, do-do-do-do-do-do. I could sing along. Left, right. It's going to be pretty hard to control with one hand. Although people have done it. Jump, jump, jump. Oh, dead. So, this is quite a fun way to play games. If you've got an old projector, all you have to do is you get a DVI to HDMI cable, and you can then connect them together. And with a RetroPie, just a Raspberry Pi with this emulation station, and you can play all your old games that you, of course, own legally, which I do, of course. I keep pressing that button. What I want to do, these are arcade games. These are really cool. So back in the day, if you ever wanted to play games in the video arcades, you know, they'd be 20 cents a go. But look at all these. Dozens and dozens and dozens. So if I wanted to fire up, say, what's an old favorite of mine? If I go to one problem when you got so many of these, I mean, it's not really a problem, but oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. That's a pretty cool one. Hopefully that one works. Not all of them work, but you know, we used to pay 20 cents a turn on the arcades, and you never would finish these games. So it's so cool to be able to bring them home and actually see what they're all about. And so I usually will hook up 2 controllers, and you can play these on your RetroPie with all the games that you, of course, own legally. So look, yep, still using that. Skip, 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 skip. Sometimes I just want to get to the actual game bit. Now, I want to do a video on this at some point because this is a really cool... How cool is that dragon look? This is a beat-em-up game.
All right, and we're back. What do you think of that? That's the RetroPie, and you know, those are pretty cheap. You can buy one on eBay for $30 or something like that for the Raspberry Pi kit, and the RetroPie just comes loaded with the emulation station and, you know, a front end so you can run the different systems, but you can install that yourself if you want. You have to be a little bit computer savvy because it's not quite as easy as a pure console like a Switch or a PlayStation or something like that. But after, you know, a few hours of tinkering with it, you can really get stuck into some classic old games. Now, if you told me when I was a kid that one day I would be able to go home and play all the arcade games that I knew as a kid, all the Sega games and Nintendo games and Atari games that I used to play and that I'd see on the shelves and in magazines and put 20 cents in to play at the video arcade, stuff that I would think about all the time, and all these games I go, what's next? What happens next? I want to play this game, but you know, you're a kid, you can't play them all, and you only have, you get 1 or 2 games a year, maybe 2 or 3 if you're in a wealthy family, and you play them to death. But if you had told me that one day I would have all these games available to me, it would be beyond my wildest dreams. Of course, the flip side to that is now I'm old and I have a family and responsibility, so I never have time to play all these games. But every now and again, I'll try and get downstairs and fire up the RetroPie and play an old game like Dungeons and Dragons, or you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Wonder Boy, you know, Metal Slug, whatever it is. I'll play through it and I'll use the save state so I don't have to go back to the beginning every time, so you can load and save. And it just takes me back to my childhood, and it's such a wonderful feeling. I'm pretty sure that when my little boy Isaac is older, I'm going to show him this and he's going to look at it and think, that's really boring. That's really, backwards and old-fashioned. Maybe not. I remember looking at the movie Casablanca the other day. My wife and I watched it a few months ago. It's black and white. It was from 1942, and I think I told this story in another video, but that movie is still a classic, even though many years have passed. And I feel like many of the games are like the Casablancas of the video game industry, the Super Marios and the Streets of Rages and those kind of games. And so it's important to preserve them, and having things like the RetroPie and MAME emulators and that kind of thing are just so vital in keeping us connected to the games of our youth, and learning from them and appreciating them, because there's so much more to a good game than just graphics. Gameplay is the thing, and we stand on shoulders of giants. It's really humbling to be able to make a game today and know that you learnt from these games, and you still can go back and play them and enjoy them, and they're as much fun now as they were 30 years ago. All right, I hope that was informative for you. And as I said, if you're interested, jump on RetroPie, download the MAME emulators for the arcade games, and get the ROM sets. Of course, you have to own them. But you can find them online. Grab the ones you want: Sega, Nintendo, arcade, whatever it is, and enjoy. All right, have a great day, and bye for now.